Hey, what's going on everybody? Roberonocle here, and let's cut straight to the chase. Back in January, I mentioned creating a Q&A video. That hasn't stopped. The FF6 video also hasn't stopped, it's just been put on hold because of 2020 for obvious reasons. That, and there was a whole thing with this other alternate YouTube channel I was working on, and it's not important, don't worry about it. What's important is that I said I was going to answer some questions, and I don't have time to make any other videos for the rest of this year, so why not do this? Very casual, very laid back, not very focused on being professional like the other videos of Roberonocle Season 6, but hey, I just want to relax, alright? So let's get right into it. Dr. Enemy, or for those of you that don't know, my brother Mark, asks, do you plan to do another collaboration video in the future? I'm actually trying to get that rolling again. For those that don't know, back in August of, what was it? 2018, yeah, 2018. I worked with my good buddy Drew Peasick on a collaboration video talking about video game difficulty. That's actually one of my favorite videos I've ever made. And I had a fun time creating the video with Drew. Very good guy to work with. And I have other friends I get along with just as well as Drew, and I really want to get something going with them. So truth of the matter is, yeah, I do actually plan to create another collab video in the future. It's just a matter of finding someone who's willing to get on that train. My friend Dan asks, what are the most underrated games you've come across? Okay, so I could be here all day, but Lufia the Legend Returns. Like, nobody knows about that game at all. It's the official third Lufia game, and yet nobody really ever talks about it. The game was awesome. It had some flaws here and there, like the very roguelike style dungeons, which I get what they were going for, but traditional dungeons just would have been nicer for the series, especially since the other games have traditional dungeons and you have this one game that's really roguelike. That's not even really a flaw, that's just not the right place to be doing something like that. But regardless, the game was oh so fun to play. And the dialogue was some of the funniest I've ever read in a video game. I would not expect that a Game Boy Color, what is it, 2001, 2002? Whenever it came out, really late into the Game Boy Color's lifespan. But it was just a hilarious game, especially since a lot of the characters really like to just make fun of each other or just dig at each other in some kind of fairly inappropriate way. It was just really amazing. You have to read it for yourself, you have to play it for yourself if you haven't. Seriously, that game is really fun, and it has a very interesting mechanic surrounding sort of setting up your party in a puzzle-like manner. It's such a fascinating JRPG for the Game Boy Color, and I didn't think I would enjoy that game as much as I did. I just got it because I was bored, honestly. As for another underrated game, I would definitely say that this game called Lost God is really glossed over. Now, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite games of all time, but it's weirdly engaging, and especially as a guy now who just doesn't really play Zelda games or Zelda-likes like he used to, it's just, Lost God was a little different, and I really just liked what it was going for. It's really hard to describe it because I haven't really played it in a while, but I remember that the variety of weapons and just the difficulty was really attractive, and by the time I got to the end of the game, I was like, dang, that was solid. But only me and like 9 other people know that the game exists. It's weird. But seriously, I would definitely recommend that game. My good buddy Claylex, or his name is also Robert, funnily enough, he asks, what's your favorite Final Fantasy game of all time? 9. Without a doubt, 9. I love Final Fantasy 9. I like to call it the missing Super Nintendo Final Fantasy title. Because if you ever play any of the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games and then you play Final Fantasy 9, you'll pick up really quick that it's very similar to that era. It even ignored that really weird 3-party limit that Final Fantasy VII introduced for like no reason, and 9 did away with that and went back to the 4-party member system as it was supposed to be. But it had amazing gameplay. It was ridiculously slow. I have never played a Final Fantasy game slower than Final Fantasy IX, but man was it so good. Gameplay was really fun, the results were really nice, the payoff from battles felt so great. The sound effects that you get when you level up and when you get a new skill, it's and every single piece of gear in Final Fantasy IX is worth getting, even the crappy stuff, because it get you something really good out of it. It's just, if you have not played Final Fantasy IX, you're cheating yourself, you really are. There's a reason why that game is getting the underdog treatment very similar to games like Majora's Mask. It's a game that's glossed over, and people don't talk about it enough. Also, the story is, really good story, my favorite in the series thus far. My good buddy Drew asks, what inspires you to make videos? So when I had initially started Roberonocle, I really wanted to get into making Let's Plays. You can see this from Roberonocle Season 1. That's all just Let's Plays. Maybe a deviation here or there with some other stuff, but almost exclusively Let's Play content. That's what I wanted to start with. Eventually, I started becoming really interested in discussing video game topics. I think I actually made a video about this, like, years ago, like Roberonocle Season 2 or 3, I forgot. But I had mentioned wanting to create discussion videos because I didn't have a lot of people around me that really wanted to talk about video games, so I moved to the internet to bring that focus elsewhere. And so from there, that pretty much made history for Roberonocle, because going forward, I'm still creating video game discussions on YouTube, or commentaries, really. It's really a combination of both. I used to call them like reviews and discussions, but it's mostly just commentaries and discussions. The stuff I made, like Final Fantasy 1 to 5, those weren't really reviews. I didn't really like calling those reviews, even though I used to. They're more like commentaries because I go through like every aspect of the game and offer my opinion on it. And sometimes even sidetrack with little details about things representing my experience overall. I think that's what frustrated some people when they watched the Final Fantasy videos, is that I didn't really communicate that, yeah, this is not really a review, it's a commentary. And so people were like, why are you talking for so long on a review? And honestly, that is a fair question. So, but to get back to the point, you know, I like going through games. I like going along games and just talking about it as we go along and talking about how it works and what I like and don't like about it. That's the style I fit into, and I really just, it's actually kind of similar to the Let's Play style that I had, because I like sharing my experiences and talking about games as I was playing through it. So now I found a way to condense all of that into a single video, or multi-parter if I ever plan on doing that, and just talking about it and talking about what I like and don't like. Anyway, moving on to his next question, Drew asks, what's been your favorite moment in the FF series so far? And I have to say, without a doubt, that would have to be the scene in FF9 in the village of Dali. It's the scene where Zidane and the rest of the party are escaping from Dali village with Vivi, and on top of the airship, these black mages called the Black Waltzes were after Zidane and crew. I believe it was the third Black Waltz attacking the ship, and at one point all the black mages on the ship, not Vivi, but the other black mages, come and try to start intervening, even though they're kind of mindless, but they start trying to intervene. And if you don't know, the Black Mage is like my favorite thing like ever of Final Fantasy. I have immense respect for the Black Mages for really no reason. I just love them. But at the end of that scene, the Black Waltz zaps all of them with lightning, and it blows all of the Black Mages off of the airship. And I'm not even gonna lie, I almost got pushed to the point of tears. No joke. I almost got pushed to the point of tears. I'm talking, for some reason, this got me closer to crying than Aerith dying in Final Fantasy VII. And that whole scene, people meme that to death, but if you know that entire scene, the whole scene with Aerith dying, it is horribly tragic, given the situation, especially Cloud's reaction to her death. If you have yet to see that scene for yourself, you have to make the time to see it, because it's amazing. But seeing all those black mages fall off the cliff, or fall off the boat, I mean, to their deaths, was just, I was devastated to see that. I didn't realize how much I actually liked the Black Mage in the Final Fantasy series until I saw all those guys fall off of that boat to their deaths. All while Vivi, who's going through a whole existential crisis about if he's even worth being considered a human. And so he's watching all these Black Mages fall to their death, and he's just sitting there, and he felt like he was getting onto something, and they're all dying, and something about that scene was just built different. So without a doubt, that scene is probably the most special to me, because it's pretty hard to get me to cry to a video game. I'm just the kind of guy that I don't cry to video games, but I have not felt anything like that ever since. I'm not saying the other stories of post-9 FF games are bad, they're pretty good for the most part, but that scene at 9, whew, it hit different. Moving on to Drew's last question, what's a game/series you always wanted to get into but just can't for some reason? Easy, Metroid. I just cannot get into them for the life of me. I have tried on several occasions, and every time I've come to the conclusion that I just don't like those games. Granted, I only played like 3 or 4 Metroid games, but every time I'm like, this game is boring, or I hate this game. Like, it's really only two modes with me when I play Metroid games. It's either it's boring, or I really don't like it. Without going into so much detail, because I've already spent a lot of time on Drew as it is, I really don't like the backtracking. I know that's a very popular frustration with Metroidvania games, but I don't like the constant backtracking. That's just not fun to me. The pixel searching, that's really what gets me. A lot of the pixel searching in Metroid games, because sometimes, dude, I get lost playing those games, and I have no idea where to go. The worst sin you can make in a video game, for me, is making it where I get lost, because nothing frustrates me like just not knowing where to go. I hate that in video games, and Metroid has a lot of that, and I do not dig that. I'm not gonna say that I'll never get into it, because I don't know that, but dog, it's rough, man. I always put those games down really, really quickly. At least right now, I don't like it. Okay, so moving on to the next question, SuperGamer61499 asks, any visual novel games? Any favorite visual novel games? Visual novels are not really my style. The closest I can really get right now is like the most basic answer on earth, Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright, Capcom series. I've been watching my brother Mark play that game, and it's very, very gripping. But if we're talking about games that I actually play, because again, I just don't play visual novels. But Undertale would really be the closest thing I think I can get to a visual novel game, because other than the bullet hell stuff, it's just a lot of talking. And it even has a visual novel-esque sections in the game. So if I had to pick any game that fit the bill the closest, it'd probably be Undertale. Moving on to the next set of questions, my buddy Chris asks, 5 of them. The first one, what is the worst game you have ever played? Ooh, okay, so I'm a bit of a video game optimist, so that could be a little hard to answer, but Triforce Heroes would probably be the closest. Is it the worst you can do? I don't really know if that's the worst I've ever played. I've played some rough games out there, but that's probably the best answer I can give, as lame and as cliche as it is. And, but yeah, I'm a little at a loss of that one. I can definitely tell you what the most mediocre game I've ever played. Without a doubt, most mediocre is Dragon Quest 1. I don't really think that game is bad, but I don't think it's good either. It's such a mediocre game. So that's really the only like feeling I feel really absolute on. If I can't do like worst, I could definitely do mediocre. Definitely Dragon Quest 1. That game it's really just nothing but grinding the entire time from what I've played, and I don't even think I can make a commentary cutlet video out of it. Not without bunching it with something else, because the game is just that insubstantial to me. Moving on to a second question, he asks, what was the best game you ever played? So for those of you that don't know, I said before back in my video why I believe Earthbound is better than Earthbound Beginnings, that Earthbound is my favorite game of all time. That has slightly changed just a little bit, just because Final Fantasy IX exists. Whereas 9 doesn't have an interactable world to the scale of something like Earthbound, because Earthbound just had amazing, and I mean amazing places to traverse. It had such good dialogue for little things, but Earthbound is almost like a game told from the perspective of the player. It's a lot of observational things, but the story itself in Earthbound is honestly really not all that good. It's really not. Like I said before, the Beginnings is much more explicit with its story. Earthbound is more implicit. It's much more from the eyes as opposed to just laying the story out for you. And that really did stand out to me as a really interesting idea for a game world, and it's a really, really good one at that too. And it also tackles a lot of themes for being a Nintendo game in the 90s of all things. But on the other hand, Final Fantasy IX just has fantastic writing for a story. Final Fantasy IX's theme is basically what it means to be human, and it does a very good job of expressing that with every single character. Seriously, it's so good. Again, if you didn't catch the drift, I love Final Fantasy IX. Oh, that's such a good game. Chris's third question, who is your favorite character? That definitely has to go to Doom Guy, or Doomslayer, because they're actually like the same person now, apparently. That's honestly kind of dumb to me, but basically the Doom Guys. I love the Doom Guys. Because against all the odds, they're the one guy that makes it through. Yeah, granted, that's not really an uncommon trend amongst the video game plots, but the situation was crappy and Doom Guy pulled through. He's silent, he pushes through, he fights demons, and he's mad about it. And Doomslayer is even angrier about it, and he's just, man, he rips open doors and he just throws stuff around. He's Doom Guy, without a doubt, Doom Guy. I love that guy. Chris's fourth question is, what is your favorite level design? Favorite level design in a, like, I guess video game he's saying here. I would definitely say that Dark Souls is one of those games. Dark Souls has a very, very well-made world and is very interesting to explore, and there's always something I'm learning about it. The game itself is also amazing too, so that most certainly helps. But besides something like Dark Souls, really anything that makes a good use of your utilities and your intuition, and just for players that pay attention and can learn to take advantage of a situation. Games that do that tend to get my attention pretty fast. And for Chris's 5th question, he asks, what is the most memorable game you have played? Again, like Earthbound or Final Fantasy IX, I think that's pretty easy. But if we're talking about memorable as in terms of world design, either Borderlands 2 or Dark Souls. I remember both of those games like the back of my hand. Even Ocarina of Time, game that I remember very, very well. Good buddy Varen asks, hey Titan Jr., that's my name on the Discord. From the JoJo anime, what's your favorite opening and ending song? My favorite opening is Sonochi no Sadame. I have yet to hear another opening from JoJo that I enjoyed more than Sonochi no Sadame. The testosterone and the absolute hype surrounding that song is unmatched. As for ending, I don't really know. The endings are nice in JoJo, but I'm just not like, I gotta hear the ending. I'm there for the opening, 100%. Another question from Baron, he asks, what's kept you going with YouTube for so long? Most people give up after a few months, but you stuck with it for 3 years. What made you stick to it? So that's really a good question. So I'm gonna be really transparent with you guys right here. There are so many days out here on YouTube. I look at my current subscriber count as of this video, it's 130. And I haven't made a lot of progress in the 6 years that I've been here on YouTube. Yeah, I've actually been here since 2014, believe it or not. So yeah, it's been 6 years. It's crazy to think. And I look at this small subscriber count that I have. I look at the small, fan base that I have, especially since I switched from Zelda content, because I think YouTube, I don't know, I'm not an algorithm expert, but I think I got typecasted to Zelda content. Because whenever I make Zelda content, the people would flock to it, like right away. I'm talking, man, I could easily get like 80 to 100 to 200 views on a Zelda video, but whenever I release something like Final Fantasy or any of the stuff that I'm doing now, I get like 20 to 40 views. And I look at that, and I cannot help sometimes but ask, why am I even here? What is the point of creating YouTube content? What's even the point in trying if I'm just gonna get results so small? Why do I still even care? But my answer to that is always the same. One, I have a fighting spirit when it comes to creating YouTube content, and I just hate giving up. That's the one thing. I will moan and groan about the state of my YouTube channel, but the one thing I've never done is just stop. Like, completely stop. As you can see from this gap right here, there's a pretty big gap between where Roberonocle Season 5 ended and where Season 6 started. But, inevitably, I came back. I just don't have it in me to give up like that. The other thing, too, is, if I'm being honest with you, looking back at Roberonocle Seasons, more specifically 2 to 5, because 1 is very different, but looking at Roberonocle Seasons 2 to 5, there were very unprofessional issues with them. But even with, like, Final Fantasy, those reviews, the 5 is the best one without a doubt, but they all had similar issues that made them feel, I would say, even too casual sometimes. Roberonocle Season 6 is where I'm trying to be serious about creating a professional YouTube career. So I also look at that, maybe it was just too casual back then. Maybe I gotta work harder towards being more professional with it, and that's what I'm going towards now. So I look at Roberonocle Seasons 1 to 5, specifically 2 to 5 really, as the build-up to what I am now. I mean, I started Roberonocle when I was in high school. Truth be told, I really shouldn't have been focusing on YouTube anyway, so looking at the past, then, well, why didn't I get all the stuff? Well, maybe it just wasn't the time. That's the way I look at it, too. Maybe it just took the 6 years, or the 7 years, or 8. I don't know. But yeah, I sometimes I think, like, to myself, what would change if I were to stop creating Roberonocle content right now? Would anybody even care if I stopped making Roberonocle content right now? I just suddenly went away. I didn't make no big fuss about it. I just stopped. Didn't say anything. Would anything change? And I think about that. I think about that a lot. About, I'm just like, should I just quit? Is it worth it? What is What am I working towards here? Is there a point to working towards my goal? I don't know that. I can't see the future. Maybe this will blow up into, I don't know, 1 million, 2 million subscriber channel. I don't know that. I really don't. And if it doesn't happen, then here's the thing. If it doesn't happen, at least you can't say that I didn't try. That I didn't try my hardest. Granted, sometimes I do lose a lack of motivation, and sometimes that slows down video production, but the thing is, I never come to a full stop. And I'm just too happy with the content I'm putting out now. I feel like I've been better than ever creating Roberonocle content. I really do feel like this is some of the best content I've ever put out. Even if it's not getting as much views, I am very happy with the stuff that I'm putting out. See, that's the thing, is I'm happy with it. I know it could be better, but it makes me happy. As long as I've got that, then hey, I can make as many Roberonocle videos as I want. Even if it's not profitable at all, if I can't make any money off it, because I would love to make the money off of creating YouTube videos, because I love making these videos. I really do. It can be agonizing, but it hurts so good, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a combination of a curiosity of what the future holds and my very, very stubborn mindset. I just hate giving up. Moving on to the last set of questions for this video, my good buddy Jared asks, what other games do you want to work on after Final Fantasy as your main thing? So right now, the Final Fantasy stuff, as I said, again, the Final Fantasy stuff has not been canceled. I'm still actually thinking of where I can fit Final Fantasy VI into Roberonocle Season 6. There's things I have to readjust for Final Fantasy VI, but trust and believe, I have not forgotten about that video at all. Because, let's be honest, that's the Final Fantasy game that everybody cares about. And people are still waiting on that, and trust and believe, I have not forgotten about that at all. You guys out there, you guys that love the Final Fantasy content, yeah, I'm pointing at the screen right now. You can't see me, but I'm pointing at the screen. I haven't forgotten about you. In fact, I would love to give you guys your dosage of Final Fantasy sometime soon. I'm not going to promise anything, but I would like to get back on track with Final Fantasy again. Now, looking at retrospect, I don't know how I'm going to do every Final Fantasy game. Mostly because I'm just wondering if it's worth it, but I definitely want to go up till 6. But after Final Fantasy, I could look at maybe Saga, which is Final Fantasy's sister series. I could look at... That's the thing, I don't know. It really just depends on what I'm really into and if I really want to put a lot of energy towards it. Maybe Half-Life or Borderlands. It could really be anything. But that is a good question. His second question is, what's another genre you want to get into on this channel? I say that horror games would be a nice place to look into another genre. Specifically with Resident Evil, because you guys already know if you watch this channel, I'm not a big fan of horror games, but Resident Evil clicks different with me. I very much enjoy Resident Evil. So that'd be a nice change of pace to talk about something horror related, specifically Resident Evil or The Evil Within, because, hey, I like that kind of stuff. Survival horror games that get you really involved in the horror environment so you just aren't running away the entire time. Go around, craft weapons, you have barely enough ammo to get by, all while fighting the nightmare fuel? Count me in. For Jared's third question, will you have more skit videos in the future? The reviews are great, but I adore the occasional joke video. Possibly. I think those videos are amusing on their own. I'm just really trying to focus more on the professional side of Roberonocle at the moment. But would I do another joke video? That's very much possible. For Jared's fourth question, what did you find on your journey through the Ratacombs? The secret of the mystery Mayan treasure. And for those of you that watch Germ out there, I'm sure you, I'm winking at you guys right now. You don't see me, but I'm winking at you guys. And for the final and most important question in all of Roberonocle history, what's the story behind your channel's name, for those who don't know? Okay, so, go back to 2013, 2014. I'm at my grandparents' place. And I just got off the phone with my dad, and I'm like, hey dad, I wanna make a YouTube channel. And he's like, alright, see what we can do about that. I'm like, I want, get recording software. Be the snot-nosed 14-year-old kid. I really want to get into YouTube and do Let's Plays and such. I'm like, I want to get a recording software. And, after I got off the phone with him, I got on my brother. And I'm like, okay, so I need a name for this. So we were like, what is it? Roberonocle or Monocle? And, I don't know. Because I wanted something with, CLE at the end. I don't know why, but I was just really into that at the time. I was like, I want something with, CLE at the end. So I was like, Miss Robert, it's Monocle, and my memory is garbage. So I could be memorizing this wrong, and my brother, I'm sure, could tell you guys, but I believe he was the one, because I was like, Robert Monocle, and he was like, Roberonocle? And I was like, oh, Roberonocle? That's, I like that. Roberonocle, it has a nice ring to it. To be honest, I think the name sounds a little goofy now, especially in 2020. I think the name is a bit of a product of its time, but people seem to really take a liking to the name though, so hey, what do I know? But yeah, it really just came from a discussion me and my brother had, but I'm pretty sure he was the one that came up with the name Roberonocle, not me. My brother's always been the more creative one of the two of us anyway, so I really wouldn't be surprised if he was the one that came up with the name that I stuck with. To be honest, I usually like his ideas for a lot of things. But yeah, we have made it through all of the questions. I would love to do this again for 2021. I had a very fun time answering these questions. And if we could get some more specific questions for 2021 and we could do it again December of that year, it doesn't have to be December, but yeah, it'd just be really nice to really just interact with you guys more, talk more, answer questions, anything you're really curious about. So yeah, I had a great time answering these questions. I'm Roberonocle, my throat is horribly dry, and I'll see you guys next time. You all take care.